and welcome to Bare Earth Healing, the podcast where we talk about what it really means to heal, live authentically, and walk the path back to ourselves. I'm Tam, and today's episode is a little raw and very real because I want to talk about something I've been going through behind the scenes. Something that's reminded me how much our physical space affects our energetic flow. Right now, I'm between jobs and have been slowly but surely preparing to open the doors to Bare Earth Healing, my home based healing space offering massage and energy alignment. But there's been one major block in the way: the pedicure chair, the big, bulky massage chair with a spa basin that simply has outstayed its welcome. For months, it sat there, too big to move, too heavy to ignore. I kept lowering the price. I ended up listing it for free. People said that they would come and collect it, but no one ever did. I found myself getting frustrated, like this one object was preventing me from moving forward, from stepping fully into this chapter. But when I slowed down and reflected, I realized maybe it was staying for a reason. Maybe I needed the pause. Maybe the delay was giving me space to truly feel into what I wanted to create next, not just rush from one thing to another like I'd done so many times before. And then, in perfect timing, a man arrived to collect the chair. It turns out he was sending it to his sister in Ghana, a young woman who had just completed her beauty apprenticeship but couldn't afford her own pedicure chair. Well, my heart melted. I thought, yes, that chair was going exactly where it needed. And I realized something else. Whilst that chair was still there, I had time to birth this podcast, to create this space, to stop and listen to my inner voice. So today I want to explore this. How does our physical environment impact our energy? And what happens when we start letting go? Not just emotionally or mentally, but physically, tangibly, object by object. Once that pedicure chair was gone, it was like something cracked open. It wasn't just a chair, it was a symbol. It was the last big piece of a version of me that I had outgrown. The version who ran a nail salon, who worked in beauty, who played it safe because that's what was familiar, even if it wasn't what was fulfilling. For months, I told myself I'd clear the space, but every time I walked into the room, I felt stuck, heavy, almost like the room was breathing old air, like the past was still lingering there. And I realize now that I wasn't just holding on to things, I was holding on to the fear of stepping into something new. Because stepping into my healing work fully, into Bare Earth Healing, means being seen in a different way. It means owning the intuitive, soul led side of me that doesn't come with a certificate or a manual, or as I like to say, permission slip. But the moment that chair left, I felt a surge of relief. And not just that, a kind of readiness I hadn't felt before. I could finally see the space for what it could be, not for what it was used to be. After that, it was like the energy started moving again. Someone came to pick up the rest of the old nail supplies that I had there. Somebody had come to pick up a bed frame that I was storing in that space. And bit by bit, the room started to breathe again. And so did I. It reminded me that letting go isn't just emotional or spiritual. Sometimes it's physical and practical. And that's the act of physically releasing that can create the biggest energetic shifts. So if you're feeling tired, blocked, or unmotivated, and you can't quite put your finger on why, it might be time for an energetic clean out. Here are a few signs that your space might be holding on to energy that no longer serves you. So you may feel heavy or anxious or foggy in certain rooms, but lighter once you leave. Perhaps you keep avoiding a particular drawer or cupboard corner because it feels overwhelming. There are things around you that perhaps remind you of an old version of yourself, or you've had ideas for the future but can't quite seem to get started or lacking that motivation. Perhaps you're constantly thinking, I should really deal with that. Or you're simply just feeling emotionally drained after being at home. This kind of energetic stagnancy builds up over time, and we often don't notice how much it's affecting us until we begin to clear it. Who remembers feng shui? It was huge in the late 90s and early 2000s. Everyone was talking about the flow of energy in a room, where to put your mirrors, how to orient your bed, or the power of water features. At its core, feng shui is about creating harmony between a person and their environment to invite in balance, abundance, and clarity. And while it might not be as trendy now, people are still using the same ideas of the feng shui, basically tuning into the energy of your space, listening to how it feels, and making intuitive choices about what stays and what goes. Whether you follow traditional feng shui rules or simply tune into your own energetic intuition, the principle is the same. Your outer world mirrors your inner one. So every object has a frequency, and just like people, objects can hold energetic imprints from where they've been, who's owned them, and what emotions were around them. Thrift shopping, vintage markets, Facebook Marketplace. These places are full of energy. Some of it's light and joyful, but some of it isn't. Have you ever bought something home and just felt off? Maybe you started to have weird dreams, or maybe the room suddenly felt heavy. Maybe you became more agitated or restless and just couldn't work out why. I experienced this firsthand. It was a couple of years ago. I bought a beautiful old mirror from a secondhand shop, and at first I loved it. But after a few weeks, the energy in that room completely changed. It felt cold, and I started waking up more anxious than usual. Eventually, I trusted the feeling and moved the mirror out of the house, and the shift was immediate. So it wasn't the mirror itself that was bad, but it was holding something that didn't belong in my space. And this can happen with secondhand items or gifts we didn't really want, or furniture from old relationships, or clothes that carry emotional memories. Perhaps ask yourself, what in my space might be holding energy that isn't mine? Or what am I keeping out of guilt, fear, or obligation? Clutter is a big one. Uh, Clutter is just not mess. It actually can be a mirror of our emotional state. Living in a cluttered space increases your cortisol levels, it heightens anxiety, and keeps our brain in a loop of unfinished tasks. But when we clear even one small space, we trigger the brain's reward system. We feel accomplished, lighter, calmer. So if you're feeling stuck or anxious, try folding the clothes that are on the chair. We all have that chair somewhere that has clothes on it, or the floor drobe, as I like to call it. Or there's maybe a junk drawer that you have and that you really avoid it as much as you can. Or throw out some expired pantry items. Just set yourself a 10-minute timer. That's it. That's how you move from stuck to moving. Every time you complete a tiny goal, you're telling your nervous system, hey, I've got this, I'm safe, and I'm capable. Once you're clearing, maybe you could do some energetic resets, such as, you could light some, burn some sage or some incense. You could put some salt bowls in the rooms or salt water for crystals. You could do, if you've got a singing bowl or some bells or even clapping, or you could do a visualization and just imagine a light washing over items and simply saying, I clear this and welcome new energy. Your intention is your strongest tool, and you can shift objects intuitively. So they are all different ways that you can cleanse the energy from objects or spaces. So if you are feeling blocked or unsure of your next step, maybe the invitation isn't to push harder, but to look around you and gently ask, what in my space no longer reflects who I'm becoming? Or what can I release to make space for what's next?
So often we think of change as something big, a leap, a milestone, a major decision. But what if the real change begins with something simple, like letting go of a chair, clearing a corner, or saying goodbye to something we've outgrown? For me, that pedicure chair was more than just furniture. It was a symbol of the past, and it held space until I was truly ready to move forward. It taught me to trust the timing, to pause, to reflect, and to believe that when we let go with intention, something beautiful is always on its way. That chair is now on its way to Ghana to support a young woman starting her journey. And well, here I am, stepping into mine with a clearer space and a clearer heart. So if you're feeling stuck or unsure of what's next, maybe start by asking, what have I been holding on to, physically or emotionally, that no longer reflects who I am? What could I release to create space for what's ready to come in? You don't have to do it all today, just one drawer, one corner, one breath. That's enough. If this episode resonated, share it with someone who might need to hear it. And let's keep making space together. Before we go, affirm, as I release, I rise. My space reflects my becoming. Thank you all for being here, and until next time, with love, Tam.